Hi, welcome back to Oneness. Today is day 10 and we will be looking at verse 10 from Tao Te Ching. So as usual, before we begin, let's observe a few seconds of silence. Thank you. So now let's look at verse 10 from Tao Te Ching. So here we go. Carrying body and soul and embracing the one, can you avoid separation? Attending fully and becoming supple, can you be as a newborn baby? Washing and cleansing the primal vision, can you be without stain? Loving the people and ruling the country, can you be without cleverness? Opening and closing the gates of heaven, can you play the role of a woman? Understanding and being to open all things, are you able to do nothing? Giving birth and nourishing, bearing yet not possessing, working yet not taking credit, leading yet not dominating. This is the primal virtue. So this verse is primarily talks about the virtue. So which we know that means T. So from the word Tao Te Ching, we know that Tao means the way, T means the virtue, and Ching means the book. And this talks about the virtue we human being should follow in a line to be with the Tao. I have to tell you, this verse is pretty tricky for me. Because from morning 4 a.m. when I woke up, until this point, now I'm recording this video, is almost like 6:46, almost 15 hours. I try to contemplate this verse since morning. However, every time I read a different translation, my understanding as well evolves and changes accordingly. And some are more complicated and some are more easy to understand and straightforward. And the reason is, there are some questions in the translation that I am using, whereas it probes a lot of thoughts, and I had to get my own clarity around that. So that's why I'm going to keep this verse and interpretation of mine as simple and as straightforward as possible, and allow you to go through your own interpretation as well. So now let's go into each line and understand what Lao Tzu would have meant by each line. So here we go. Carrying body and soul and embracing the one, can you avoid separation? So here in this line, Lao Tzu clearly talking about the unity of body and soul. When he's talking about soul, he's talking about a pure consciousness of being a part of Tao itself. So he talks about when we embrace both the soul and body as one, how can it be separate as two different things? It becomes one. And here we have to understand that in Lao Tzu's word, the oneness is we become one with the Tao, so that we become one with everyone and every living being on this planet or in the cosmos. That is a primary step. And the next line, he goes about, attending fully and becoming supple, can you be as a newborn baby? Here all he means is, though as we age old, when we align ourselves with the way of Tao, can we become as flexible, as energetic as a newborn baby? And washing and cleansing the primal vision, can you be without stain? So the moment we start the primal vision, that is the ancestor, when the beginning of heaven and earth, when we understand, when we can see the beginning of heaven and earth, all the stain in our perspective, in our views, in our beliefs can go off, so that we have a pure vision of what it is, what Tao is. So that's what he means in the other lines. Loving the people and ruling the country, can you be without cleverness? Here he clearly talks about the one who rules people, and he talks about loving the people and ruling the country. And here when he talk about cleverness, he's talking about avoiding the self-interest. Instead of avoiding the self-interest of own, we have to love the people as well as rule them. it is both looks like contradictory or paradoxical, but then it has a unity in itself. You love the people and rule them intuitively from within, not just by clever tactics or some kind of self-interest. Instead, be selfless. That's what it means. Opening and closing the gates of heaven, can you play the role of women? Here, in my understanding from a different translation, all he means is the opening and closing of the gate is kind of the work. It is a routine work someone performs. Whereas the other side is, by doing that, can be as diligent as women. When he talks about women, he talks about the mother of all things. When the mother of all things, of all creations. So he talks about where even when we are doing as repetitive job as opening and closing the door, can you be as vigilant and as focused on the duty as women? Understanding and being open to all things, are you able to do nothing? So here, it clearly talks about when we go behind knowledge and then when we learn a lot, and we have our own understanding, can we also let go of those thoughts and be curious as a new beginner, as a new person who is just trying to understand new concepts and ideas instead of the one who already know? So can we let go of that ego and be without ego and be as a beginner mindset? That's what he means in this verse. Giving birth and nourishing, bearing yet not possessing. So it is like a water droplet on top of a lotus leaf. As though it is on top of a lotus leaf, it doesn't get attached to the leaf. So that's what Lao Tzu means, bearing yet not possessing. You can have it, but don't get attached to the things that you have. Be happy about things that you have in your life. Enjoy it, but at the same time, don't get attached to it. Working yet not taking credit. Leading yet not dominating. So we have seen from the previous verses, Lao Tzu talks about leading and not dominating, working yet not taking credit. So he always talks about do the work and forget it. Don't take credits. And this is the primal virtue. This is the virtue that we all should follow. So with that, I like to talk a few words about oneness. So the idea of oneness is stuck with me from say 5 years ago when I watched a video by a person named Tom Chi. Tom Chi is a founder of Google X. And one of his TEDx talk, he talks about a story of heart, breath and mind, which is quite inspiring and moving and eye-opening after all. He clearly talks about how we human beings and every single creatures are connected with each other. To give you one quick example, the first one, he talks about a story of heart. If I have to summarize in shortly, all he talks about is every time our heart pumps blood and every single hemoglobin that moves out of it, which carries oxygen, in the center of it, there is an iron atom. And there is no way in this earth the iron atom would have come to exist. It is because of the collisions of millions and millions of stars in the galaxy and then forming an iron atom. Thus, we are nothing but a part of stars themselves. So that's how he starts the story. But then he gives a lot more scientific way to validate this idea and relate to it. So it is a must watch. I will leave the link, check the video, and I'm sure that you will be glad that you watched that video. So with that, we come to the end of verse 10. And now, then today's actionable step. So the actionable step for today, it is as simple as that. When you are around people, just see other person as a reflection of yourself. Instead of judging them, seeing their opinion as a different one, and seeing as a different person, all you see is just a reflection of yourself, just like a mirror. Anybody it can be your mother, it can be your child, it can be your spouse, it can be anyone, it can be your neighbor or a friend or a stranger, it can be anyone. Just see them as a reflection. Just think of as one universal consciousness playing a role of a multiple person parallelly. And you are one among them, the other person is also you playing the other version of you. Think of this and I'm sure you will get a perspective how to lead and be one with everyone and everything in this world. With that, let's end for today. See you tomorrow.